Golly, man, it is absolutely too hot and humid to be out here in my backyard garden. Let me show you what you can do right now in the middle of the summer in your backyard garden. Hey guys, it's Darryl, Louisiana Simple Living. Thanks for coming back out to the garden. So extreme high temperatures and humidity have been ever present here in my backyard garden now for a couple months. Between the heat and the rain we've had over the last couple months, it's time to go ahead and pull some of these plants that I planted back in March in the spring. And it's really difficult to be out here working in the garden, but hey, that doesn't mean we can't continue gardening after our spring garden. In fact, there are things that we can go ahead and sow and plant in our backyard garden right here in the middle of the hot, humid summer in Zone 9A. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. Hey, look, if you haven't as yet, go ahead and subscribe, ring the notification bell and like the video. Feel free to share it as well. All right, well, let's get started. Okay, so what plants can we plant right now in the middle of July in the Gulf South? And remember, there are a multitude of internet sites that will provide you information about what you can plant now. And you know, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right? Not all of them are. But look, if you focus on the ones that are kind of local to your area, whether it be a state agency or even your local nursery, they can give you some really good suggestions on what you can plant now in the middle of July in the summer. And a good example is the LSU Ag Center. If you're in the Louisiana area, they publish annually. They publish a planting guide, and it lists the best months to plant different types of plants. And it's a pretty good guide, and I kind of pretty much follow it. I do look at some other things. Farmer's Almanac is another one. And then just good old experience. After you've been growing for a number of years, you know what's going to work in your specific climate, your specific area, in your soil, and those kind of things. And this information is right on the mark for what you can grow and what you should grow and when in Louisiana, in the basic Louisiana Gulf South area. And to check some of these resources, make sure you know your USDA plant hardiness zone. So I'm in Zone 9A where I'm at here in the kind of greater Baton Rouge, southeast Louisiana area. Make sure you check which zone you're in, and that can give you a better idea on the plants you can plant now in your specific climate in this month, during the month of July. You can see the specifics of the plant hardness zones. I did a video, Spring Garden 101 and planting basics, and I'll put a link down below so you can get to that video. And the whole Spring 101 series kind of guides you through the whole planting and growing process. All right, so again, using different resources, including the LSU Ag Center planting guide, and just experience over the last number of years in growing stuff in my garden. There's a list of things we can plant right now during the month of July. You can do beans, whether it be polar bush beans, Chinese cabbage, cantaloupe or melons, and cauliflower. Eggplant and collard greens, one of my favorites. You can smother it with some broth, beef or chicken, and put some andouille that you saw me cook a couple episodes ago, or some tasso. Okay, okra, southern peas. I'm not talking about the sugar sweet peas, but the southern peas, kind of like black-eyed peas, things of that nature. All right, pumpkins. I haven't had a whole bunch of success in my backyard with pumpkins. We're going to go ahead and give that a shot this year as well. And rutabagas, I've never grown those. Shallots, summer squash, and watermelon. Summer squash, I'll go ahead and give it a shot with another planter or two and just see how it does. The squash vine borer, if you've seen the video, I'll put a link down below to that one as well. They can be a lot of problems. Hopefully later, the late summer, early fall, we may not have as big a problem with the squash vine borer. And I got some preventive things we're going to do to make sure that they are successful. So as you see, even though it is extremely hot and humid out here, there's a variety of plants we can go and get started in the garden. We can go ahead and sow the seeds directly in the garden, and it'll spend a little bit of time in the ground or under the soil while it's in a super hot and humid environment. And by the time it starts maybe cooling down after the mid-August, late August, these plants will be thriving and doing well. All right, so let's go ahead and start sowing some seeds. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plant some Fort Portal Jade pole beans. All right, so we'll go ahead and plant these You want to plant them about a ½ inch deep, ½ inch to an inch, about 6 inches apart. About 6 inches apart. All right, that's planted. All right, so next up I'm gonna plant just a couple is some Chinese cabbage. It's Hilton Chinese cabbage. It's a Napa type of cabbage. You plant it about a ¼ inch deep and at least 8 to 10 inches apart. So we'll go ahead and plant. I'm only gonna plant a few of these, and I'll overseed it just a little bit to make sure that we got some that come up. Remember, ¼ inch ain't much. You just want to just make sure you cover it. It takes 60 to 70, I guess, days, somewhere around there, maybe up to 80. And again, this is Chinese cabbage, Hilton. All right, so just planted some Chinese cabbage, Hilton, ¼ inch or so, 8 to 10 inches apart. And I'm just trying to make sure I got them covered up good. Cut. All right, next up is the Minnesota midget melon. I'm gonna put 2 mounds of them right here. So I'll go about 3 seeds in each just to make sure I got some that germinate. No reason to believe that I won't, but I just like to make sure I overseed to make sure, right? Never hurts. And you want to plant these about a ½ inch to an inch. And you want your width to be 12 to 18 inches apart. I'll only have 2 plants that I'll actually keep, and that I'll trim. I'll trim out, make sure I only got 2 plants each. And these melons, they were introduced in Minnesota in 1948. 3 to 4 foot vines, and they produce sweet orange melons about 4 inches across. So they're pretty small and really a good size for us at our Louisiana living that we like to eat them at, smaller size. All right, so this is a Minnesota midget melon. I planted 3 here, 3 there. Just want to make sure we got it covered up decently. It's about a ½ inch is the depth that you want to put them. They're pretty small seeds, pretty small melons, so this will work well. All right, next up is some collard greens. About a ¼ inch deep, 10 inches, 12 inches or so apart, 8 to 12 inches apart. And so I'll plant, I'll actually overseed these like I normally do. I want to make sure I got some come up. All right, so I'm just going to loosely kind of cover it up. All right, so these will mature in about 75 days. But you don't have to wait 75 days to actually start taking some off. You can go ahead and start cutting some off and using them prior to that. All right, next up I'm going to plant some okra. So I'm going to plant Jing Orange. This is the one I typically plant. I love these. They don't get tough as quick as the other ones. They're a little more forgiving, so I'm going to go ahead and plant a couple of row here, a row here, and then on the other side I'm going to try this Alabama Red that I haven't ever grown before, but it's something for the south, so that'll do well here. All right, so you want to plant okra a ½ inch to 1 inch down in the soil and about 12 inches apart. They get to be pretty good sized plants, so let's go ahead and plant these. As usual, I will go ahead and overseed. I will plant 2 in each. Alright, so get your Jing orange ochre done. Let's cross over and do our Alabama red. Now it's time to do the Alabama red. And I'm going to plant a couple, probably 2 more plants, because I got a little bit more room over here. Again, I'm going to do 2 seeds each. Alright, next up we got some southern peas. This is Pigott, P-I-G-G-O-T-T. It's going to go on the inside of this trellis. The Pigott southern pea is a variety that's been in the Pigott family since the 1850s in Washington Parish, Louisiana. So let's go ahead and plant some of these. So these will need planted about a 1/2 inch deep, about 6 inches apart. And these are from Mary's Heirloom Seeds. I've started using them on a couple things. They got some varieties that I don't ordinarily get from the ones I normally hit, like seedsavers.org and Baker Creek Seeds or rareseeds.com. Alright, so just planted this. This is the southern pea. It's a Pigott style. So this pea has been traced into the Pigott family in Washington Parish, Louisiana since the 1850s. So, alright, so next up, and I got this bed that runs all along here. It's empty. Heirloom pumpkin seeds. I got this from my uncle and aunt-in-law, and they sent these to me, and I'm going to go ahead and try them out. I don't know what variety of pumpkin it may be. That's okay. We're going to try it out and see how it does. And pray, and I'll do everything I can to keep the squash vine borer from getting to this vine. Alright, kind of like I did with the melon, I'm going to give it about 1.5 feet, and I'm going to plant 2 sets of 3 just to make sure I get something to come up, and I'll run it all on this 20 foot or so of bed that's totally empty. And these pumpkins mature in about 90 to 120 days, so they're a pretty long time before they'll mature. Alright, so next up is I'm going to plant some squash. This is kind of a zucchini squash. It's a Cocozella de Napoli. It's an Italian heirloom, and then this is a squash Table King bush I'm going to plant back in the other bed. And again, I'm hoping kind of planting it late that I don't have to worry as much about the squash vine borer. Alright, so these should be planted about 1 inch deep. And we'll give them about 2 foot apart. You can go up to 3 foot apart. But I'm going to end up training them to go one way or the other here, because they will kind of spread out, kind of vine out a little bit, so we'll do that. They'll work pretty good here though. Alright, just planted the squash. This is a zucchini. I'm going to cover them up. Put a couple seeds each. They germinate pretty well. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so we're going to go with a watermelon. And this is going to be a Clay County yellow meat. I'll put a couple of sets here. And again, I'm just going to let this run all through here. Oh look, I grew peanuts here at one point. There's a shell. So with watermelon, you want to go about 1/2 to 1 inch deep. You're looking at 2 to 3 foot apart. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of cover it. Whoop! Here's a potato I missed. That was from a couple weeks ago, or a month ago or so. Okay, so 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep. All right, and this is the Clay County yellow meat watermelon. Go ahead and cover them up good. It's a bush variety of a green acorn squash. And again, kind of hope I'm missing the squash vine borers. I'm just gonna plant one just to see what happens. But I'll plant 3 seeds just to make sure I get something germinate. It needs to be about 1/2 inch to 1 inch down. Now, like I said, I'm just gonna do the one, so I ain't gonna worry about spacing or anything. All right, that pretty much wraps up everything we're gonna plant here in the middle of the hot, humid summer in South Louisiana, the Gulf South, Zone 9A. All right, so hey guys, thanks for coming back to Louisiana Simple Living again today. Look, I know it's hot, it's humid, especially if you're in the Gulf South in Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, all those different states around the Gulf South. Man, it's hot right now, it's humid. I get it. But too often when we get started in gardening, we think that the only garden we can really grow is go ahead and plant those things in the very beginning of spring. And that's just not the case. So there are plenty of things we can go ahead and sow and plant right here in the heat of the summer that it's well worth doing. And heck, you know, down in this area we can go ahead and grow 12 months a year. In most other areas you can too, if you're just careful about what you plant. You may have to use a greenhouse if it's really cold in the northern climate, but down here, man, you can grow pretty much year round. Look, I know I'll walk outside right now in this heat. Now it's actually about to storm. You probably hear thunder in the background. So there's a little bit of a super humidity, you know, that cool blow that comes in right before it pours down raining, which it's on the way. But look, you walk outside, you're talking about 90 plus degrees, heat index over 100. It don't take you 5, maybe 10 minutes and you're just drenched in sweat. So I get it, again, I get it. But nevertheless, you can go ahead and keep your gardening going. Enjoy your gardening. You can spend less time out here, just make sure you pace yourself. But it's important to go ahead and keep your garden growing. And look, just because it's hot, you may be retiring some plants from the spring planting. That doesn't mean it's time to retire from gardening, so we can go ahead and go all through the year. So get out in your backyard and grow something. And look, if you haven't subscribed as yet, please subscribe, ring the notification bell, and like this video. As I always say, make memories now rather than later. You may regret it if you don't spend that time with family and friends now when you can. And look, I appreciate all of you guys watching the videos, watching this YouTube channel of Louisiana Simple Living. And as always, I will see you on the next video.